Welcome to BizSafe Level 3 2016 Audit Briefing. The questions comprises of 41 questions. First, the auditor will check that is there a documented WSH policy endorsed by top management. What the auditor will do is that they'll do a document review, and the endorsement must be made by current top management. They'll check whether the policy is current, and they check whether the document does state the name, position, date of endorsement. If top management comprises more than one person, all of them have to endorse on the policy. Number 2 is still under safety policy. 1.2 asks that does the workplace safety and health policy shows the company's commitment to manage and reduce risk through effective risk management. They also will ask whether the policy comply with applicable WSH, which is workplace safety and health legal requirements. The document review part will that the auditor will check whether the policy indicates company's commitment and addresses safety and health objectives appropriate to the nature and the scale of the work. Next, the auditor will check is the policy displayed, communicated and made available to all relevant key stakeholders with intent that they are made aware of their individual workplace and health obligations. There will be an inspection, physical inspection, and interview personnel. They will interview a manager, a supervisor, and a worker to ask whether they are aware of WSH policy or workplace safety and health policy and their workplace safety and health obligation and responsibility. You should have a photo evidence of the workplace safety and health policy disseminated to the employees, contractor, or posted on website or notice board. Next question the auditor will ask is that did the company appoint a multidisciplinary risk management team or risk assessment team? There will be a document review. You need to have company organization chart showing the risk management and risk assessment team leaders and members and names. Did the company appoint sufficient and suitable members? And they also will ask whether to attach the appointment letters of at least one risk management and risk assessment team leader and one member. Next one is 2.2, which is under the preparation. They will ask, are the appointed risk management or risk assessment team leaders trained to do risk assessment? There will be a document review to check whether the risk management leaders have successfully completed the 2-day risk management course conducted by WDA, and they must attach training certificate of all the risk management or risk assessment team leaders. And also the auditor will check on the authenticity and validity of certificate for team leaders. Next, the auditor will check whether the risk assessment or risk management team members are trained or briefed on risk management by a team leader who has completed risk management course. First, there will be audit document review and then interview personnel. Attach the training and briefing records of team members and brief outline of training in content and interview statements. And 50 of them have to be interviewed by the auditor. And then you need to the auditor will verify the risk management competency of the person who conduct the training and briefing. Next is that are the risk assessment and risk management leaders and team leaders familiar with the risk assessment methodology adopted by the company? There will be a document review and interview of personnel, and there must be attached of workplace safety and health policy or safe work procedure or training materials which shows the methodology, for example 3x3 matrix adopted by the company. Next, under preparation, the auditor will check that whether the company's risk management or risk assessment methodology provide for prioritization of risk. There will be a document review, and the company must attach the risk assessment methodology that provides for risk prioritization. Next one is that does the company's risk assessment methodology provide for documentation of risk? There should be a document review, so you must attach the risk assessment methodology that provides for documentation of risk, for example categorization, indexing, and referencing. Next one is still under preparation. The auditor will ask, is there an inventory of work activities kept by the company? There will be a document review to show, you must show the auditor that you have an inventory of work activities that include all or most of the company's daily operations. Check all department, workplace, site or project specific work processes. The next question auditor will ask is that, does the company have a procedure for risk identification and risk assessment? There will be a document review of the risk assessment procedure of the company. Next, the auditor will check whether is there a risk register kept at the workplace. There should be a physical inspection and document review. Next, the auditor will ask, is assessment or risk assessment conduct for all work activity corresponding to the inventory of work activities, whether it's routine or non-routine. There should be a physical inspection and document review. And you must show forth at least 3 work activities which the auditor will attach in the audit report. And one of the activity has to be non-routine in the workplace. Next, the auditor will ask, is risk assessment conducted specific and relevant to the work activity in the workplace? There will be a physical inspection and document review. The auditor will attach the photo and the risk assessment of at least 3 work activities, and the auditor will check the risk assessment of 3 critical or higher risk activity at the workplace for evidence. And the risk assessment had to be non-generic and customized to existing workplace condition. Next one is that, does the risk assessment identify all foreseeable risks and hazards, both safety and health, associated with the safety activity carried out in the workplace? There will be a physical inspection and document review. Also, again, the auditor need to attach risk assessment and photograph of 3 work activities in the audit report. Next one is that, is under the section of risk assessment. Does the risk assessment take into account of human factors like fatigue, health, management, operation, demands, communication, procedure design and implementation, which may influence the safety and health outcomes? So first, there will be a physical inspection, document review and interview. Again, the auditor need to interview the personnel, and you need to show for proof of at least in terms of photograph as well as the risk assessment in this aspect. The next question auditor need to ask you is that, does the risk assessment take into account job factors like shift design, monetary demands of the job, equipment design condition, signage and label, which may influence the safety and health outcome? There will be a physical inspection and document review. Again, you need to show forth the proof that you have done this in terms of photograph and risk assessment. Next, the auditor will ask, does the risk assessment take into account individual risk factors such as physical fitness, strength, hearing, eyesight, knowledge, pre-existing condition, for example, which may influence the safety and health outcome? So again, there will be a physical inspection and document review. Again, you need to show forth the proof in terms of risk assessment as well as photograph. Next, the auditor will ask you that, does the risk assessment take into account of all activities or all persons having access to the workplace, which include visitors to the workplace, show the procedures or safety operation procedures. Next, the auditor will ask, does the risk assessment take into account or identify hazards originating outside the workplace capable of adversely affecting the safety and health of person under the control of the occupier within the workplace? There will be a document review and you need to show forth the procedures. And then they'll ask whether does the risk assessment take into account hazards created in the vicinity of workplace by work-related activities under the control occupier. There will be a document review of your procedures. Next, auditor will ask, are the existing legislation, approved core practice and relevant guidelines taken into account in the development of safer procedure and selection of control measures stated in the risk assessment for work activities? Again, you need to show forth the evidence when they do a document review. Then next one is are the risks evaluated accurately in accordance to the hierarchy of risk control? There will be a document review and physical inspection. Best, you need to show forth the evidence in the photograph and risk assessment, and verify. The auditor will need to verify that the PPE or personal protective equipment is chosen as a last resort when after all other options are considered, or PPE is not considered, or the auditor will need to inspect the work site to verify the risk control selected are available on site. Next, the auditor will ask, are the responsible person to implement control measures specified in the RA in the risk assessment? Are the deadlines or implementation of risk control measure or safe work procedure specified in the risk assessment? Again, the auditor will need to do a document review and interview of implementers, and you need to show forth or in terms of evidence in terms of risk assessment, and the auditor will need to interview the implementers on the knowledge of the appointment deadline for implementation. Next, the auditor will check whether the risk assessment are dated and signed by the team. They will do a document review. Next, make sure that auditor will check whether the risk assessment is approved and endorsed by management. They will check in terms of document review. Next, the auditor will check whether is there action plan follow-up on the implementation or identified risk control in the risk assessment, and is a plan approved by the management. There will be a document review and need to show the risk management implementation plan to the auditor, and it should cover all activity with clear completion date, account action items approved by top management, and indicate name, destination of people in charge of implementation and the deadline. Next, the auditor will check whether are the civil procedure or control measures stated in the risk assessment implemented in the workplace. So there will be a document review and physical inspection. You need to show forth in terms of your civil procedure and risk assessment of at least 2 work activity. The auditor will check the implementation of risk control measures and civil procedure for 2 activity, and the auditor will need to verify that employees are performing their tasks in accordance to civil procedure and are using the stated risk controls. Next, the auditor will check whether are the implemented risk control assessed for their effectiveness, usability, and adequacy after implementing. So they will have the evaluation criteria for effectiveness, such as reduced risk if it's not eliminated. Number 2, reliability, ease of use, and interference with productivity. There will be a document review and physical inspection. And you need to show forth the evaluation process after implementation of the control and any modification or alteration made. Next one, the auditor will check are the risk assessment updated after implementation of risk control and also the civil procedure. The auditor will need to do a document review again. Next, the auditor will check are the workers briefed and aware of the hazard identified, control measures and civil procedure in place for controlling hazard for the work activity they are involved in. There will be a document review and interview of personnel again. Are the risk assessment and civil procedure made available in the workplace for all workers? There will be an inspection and interview of personnel. Are risk register and risk assessment kept for at least 3 years? There will be a document review. Are the risk assessment review once every 3 years? There will be a document review too. And are the risk assessment review when an accident, incident, or near miss or dangerous occurrence occurs? There will be a document review, and the auditor need to check the company's accident, incident, and near miss and dangerous occurrence record and select 2 events and verify if the relevant risk assessment are reviewed post to the 2 events, and you need to show forth the evidence in this sense. Next, the auditor will check are the risk assessment review where there are a significant change in work practices, procedure, facilities, and workplace environment condition. There will be a document review to check the company's record for recent changes in work practices, procedure, facilities, or workplace environment condition. They will select 2 different changes and review corresponding risk assessment of the affected work activities for evidence or review post to the change, and attach records of 2 changes and need to have corresponding risk assessment of the affected work activities. Next, the auditor will ask, are the risk assessment reviewed after any change of equipment, material, or substances used? So there will be a document review to check the company's record for recent change in equipment, material, and substance used, and they will select 2 different changes and review corresponding risk assessment and affected work activities for evidence or review to the change. Review the post to the change. Need to have evidence again in this sense. Then the auditor will check, are the risk assessment reviewed after new information on the risk workplace health risk relevant to the work conducted become available. There will be also the document reviews again. Next, the amendments to the existing risk register and risk assessment review approved and endorsed by management. There will be a document review again. And then they will ask whether the company have procedures for communicating changes in risk assessment to the stakeholder after review. There will be a document review and interview. And the communication procedure should include communication to the visitors and the contractor, and the auditor need to interview 3 persons from various stakeholder groups for evidence. And perhaps the auditor will attach the risk management policy, procedure, or document which lay out the communication plan. The communication plan should usually include stakeholders to be engaged, communication process and frequency of communication, and feedback. Next, the auditor will check, are the relevant stakeholders informed and aware of changes to the risk assessment after it been changed, and they will have to interview personnel to check whether they are informed of the changes in risk assessment. They will check for evidence in terms of the notice board, briefing records, risk assessment training records, for example. So this is the end of the 41 question in the 2016 risk assessment. For more information, you check out the website of Workplace and Health Council to get more information. Bear in mind, this is just a briefing. If you want more information, please engage an auditor or consultant or trainer to give you a more detailed explanation of risk assessment. Thank you. All the best.